So now it's my pleasure to introduce our CEO. Many of you will know when the organization was set up that Dr. Gerald Hauer was our former CEO, and we were very pleased to get the services of Dr. Mark Redmond, who has now been our CEO for almost a year, and I believe is very much enjoying his job. And so, Mark, over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to be at this afternoon's meeting. And as we said, it'd be better if we could meet you all in person, but we're looking forward to that next year. I'm happy to bring the members, directors, and partners this report after the first full year of operations of RDAR. It's been an exciting time, and we've made remarkable progress over the last year delivering our product of results-driven agriculture research. Our approach to engaging with producers in research has been a process called T4P. You'll see in a lot of documents, and as we go into the strategic plan review later today, we refer to T4P. This is the engagement of producers, the private and public sector in partnership to work together in delivering research results. And as we've initiated our research calls this year, we've been looking for the T4P approach, viewing that as the most reliable way of getting research from the laboratory and the test plots into the producers' fields. So this year, we've had 4 funding calls. They started just over a year ago. As the minister has already addressed the point, we've invested over $31 million. I'm happy to say that with some additional investments that we have agreed to last week, we stand at $41 million investments in 139 projects. That means we have committed 92% of the funding that we have available to us to power outcomes, research-driven outcomes. The leverage that we have secured, again, another factor that we look for, we very rarely invest in research alone. We've been able to leverage our investments by 2.4 times. So a quick calculation will show you that the 41 million we have invested to date will mean an approximately $100 million of research being invested. We have had a lot of demand for funding support. Over 500 letters of intent were reviewed over the last year or since our inception. Over 400 grants are now being managed in a database that we have built called the Agriculture Research Grant Organizer, or ARGO. And that is going to be a great resource which serves us well into the future in terms of managing this very large number of grants already, 400, and being timely in terms of reporting, identifying opportunities and duplication. I will add one further sidebar here. 400 grants is not an inconsiderable number. In my experience working in research over the years, it is only the national funding agencies that I see managing such a large number of projects. So it's a great opportunity for RDAR. And when you look at the 13 employees that RDAR has currently, that workload and leverage is considerable. And so it's only through technology and dedication that we're able to drive our processes forward. You'll see also 6% of our revenue currently is spent on administration costs, which again is far lower than very many other enterprises. We do receive questions in terms of how does our research process work, and it is a rigorous process. We start with the objectives and the areas identified by our producer advisory committee, and they form the foundation of looking for where we should be making our investments. Our dedicated group of the research team, 6 individuals at this time, led by Clint Dobson, His team of RPOs work hand in hand with applicants right from the origin of the call, right through to making their applications, improving their applications so that they maximize input. And we look for a return at the farm gate. We look at the grants, including knowledge to action plans, because we are concentrating on delivering benefits to the farm gate. We employ, beyond our on receiving our grant applications, as an internal review, projects which are selected to move forwards from a letter of intent or an expression of interest, move forward to a rigorous process of external expert review. And you'll see on this slide, I've keyed out, we have a panel of 116 national and international experts, which include academics, national agencies, for example, the USDA, Agriculture Canada, private companies in terms of the major agricultural companies, as well as producers who do extensive reviews and make recommendations to RDAR's funding committees, the three of them, 3 levels associated with different amounts of funding to move forwards with application. You'll see at the bottom of the slide, we have reviewed 582 proposals with $164 million requested. That has resulted in the 139 approvals and $43 million of investment. So if you want to see where the investments have gone by program, you'll see the most subscribed program is the Accelerating Agriculture Innovation Program. And the next most significant program is a targeted call. So we identified needs in discussions with producers and industry, and is deemed soil health and water preservation are key. And we have secured $7.3 million in project investments there. You'll note that those 2 categories exceed the investment made in the Agriculture Funding Consortium from 2020. So we are independently funding a significant portion of research in this province. You'll also see here our funding to the ARAs, investment decision made by the RDAR board to support the agricultural research associations across the province in moving ahead with their work. The $10 million, that was just identified and agreed to last week, and that will be the 2021-2022 Agricultural Funding Consortium. RDAR led the selection of projects and the administration of projects, and our Argo database is going to be used by the entire funding consortium. Those are agriculture research investors from Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. They will be using Argo to help manage their processes. So I indicated that we invest in the areas identified by the Producer Advisory Committee. The 4 areas of investment identified were competitiveness, productivity and profitability, sustainable production, marketing, and knowledge mobilization. As I indicated, all of our applications have a component of knowledge mobilization in their investment portfolio. So the 6.1 million in direct investment actually represents an under-reading of the investment we make in knowledge mobilization. You'll also see on the right-hand slide, part of the slide, the investment by sector, and the fact that we are balanced well between crops and livestock. I'll illustrate our investments with just 3 examples, and the minister actually stole my thunder in a number of places, but genetics and genomics will play a significant research opportunity for Alberta in the future to develop livestock breeds which have market advantages and crops which are suited better to our climate. The example I'm showing you comes from the Canadian Beef Improvement Network, CBIN. We invested $640,000 in an initiative led by the Canadian Beef Breeds Council, together with 8 other breed associations, something of a rarity for all these breed associations to come together to work in harmony at developing a suite of tools and a database to help producers themselves make better livestock selection. With this, you'll see an improvement in genetic literacy as one of the spinouts. The bottom box in terms of network centers of excellence. It's been recognized that one thing that RDAR brings to the Alberta research landscape is our network and our ability to connect. And so we make projects even better by linkages with groups such as Livestock Gentech, Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, and Genome Alberta. We also stretch our initiatives across the country and across nations to make sure that we are not duplicating work and we're delivering advantages as quickly as possible to Alberta producers. Next example you see is one in the area of climate variability and adaptability. And we are focused on the environmental challenges that producers face. As the minister indicated, we had our rapid call in the area of drought remission. This particular project illustrated comes from 4 ARAs working together, led by Northeast Applied Research Association. And their work, approved in the last month, is to use innovative cropping systems to improve water holding and drainage. The challenge we face in the province, while some parts of the province need to enhance water holding, typically in the Peace Country, they need drainage capacity. And so this particular project spans a large part of the province to deliver results that will be applicable. You'll see in this bottom quadrant, we have a portfolio of products in this area, engaging with other ARAs, for example, the Chinook ARA in the south, as well as a number of other projects coming through our agricultural funding consortium. The final project I'll illustrate, again, keyed out by the minister, is important in terms of meeting the public's needs in terms of accessibility to affordable, safe food. And Alberta has an opportunity to develop proprietary technology and knowledge to drive a strong industry which would reduce our dependence on imports of particularly fresh fruit and vegetables, which, given the concern this week over truckers being able to haul food into Alberta, will be important. And so we're using resources originally developed by the Alberta government in terms of beautiful greenhouses for scale-up work at Brooks, as well as facilities within Lethbridge College itself to drive this important new project with broad benefits to the growth of our sector. If you are looking for more about RDAR research, then don't look any further than the website. You'll find at the web address keyed on this slide, the full inventory of projects that we have currently funded. And you'll see when our RPOs have had the opportunity, they have filled extensive detail in about the particular projects in terms of information which we're allowed to distribute into the public domain. If you don't want to go to the website, then the next opportunity is to ask us, and you'll see that in 2021, we met our commitment to be broadly accessible to Alberta producers and stakeholders, and we met out in the field in a very broad series of events which stretch from Fort Vermilion in the Peace Country to the north, to the foothills and the lands of Farming Smartest territory in the south, to discuss initiatives, to look at test plots, to look at the work that's being conducted as part of our experimental plans. We anticipate doing more of this in 2022, and it'll be even better without COVID. Quick financial snapshot, currently where we stand. We've received $44.9 million. We have contracted $41.5 million. We have a further $10 million funding consortium commitments made for a total commitment of $51.5 million. I will key out the CAP contribution here. This is a contribution under the current CAP agreement, which is actually coming to an end in March 2022. And we look forward to hearing more about CAP 2.0 later this year. Quickly, I'd like to acknowledge the board and standing standing committee activities, and acknowledge the work of the administrative team in pulling together the work of the directors in their decision making and administration. And this is primarily work of Lydia Talpash and Heather Crosby. Kudos to them for the support of the work you see here. This particular slide, extremely detailed. You see it is available to the Class A members in your deck for further analysis. A 12-month outlook, you'll be hearing extensively from our communications team. Junada does a great job on Twitter and LinkedIn, so that can be an instant source of information in terms of where we are. And you'll hear in the next month the call for the Agricultural Funding Consortium. You'll be hearing more about some specific targeted calls that we're working on. The lead there being in some genetic advancement of agriculture in the province. We'll be out and about meeting with researchers and actually filming the work that they're doing for TEDx type talks. And the first TED talk, will be this afternoon with Ted Billier. And we are working towards a one-day conference in June, post-calving, post-seeding, when we can bring this whole group together to meet. Our next AGM in 2023 will be scheduled in January. However, before then, we'll be looking for the nomination of 2 new member-nominated directors. And that process will begin after harvest, most likely in the middle of October. That, Mr. Chair, is my report. I'm happy to take questions. I will also add that we do have the chairs of all of our standing committees who are also available to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Mark. We do have 3 questions. The first one is on slide 32, the research investment by funding call. The ask is to clarify that ARA, AMI, and Genome Alberta investments are grouped together, and just looking for some reasoning on that, please.
So those are groups administering work and projects for us. So we have contracted AMI, $50,000 to assist us in identifying work for advanced machine learning. And so we'll be selecting 10 projects for AMI to work to adding enhancements with machine learning. And Genome Alberta is helping us in a similar way to identify genomics projects. The reason why the initiatives are grouped together was to avoid just putting a general tag in there. I actually asked for specifics, and so that's only for a matter of convenience to bring together a group of partners.
Thank you, Mark. Next question, I'm going to combine 2 of them. Just clarifying whether RDAR has supported any of the research into seaweed production to reduce methane produced by cattle. And there's also a thought that seaweed research was tier funding.
Clint can help me if I answer this wrong. It's an area of opportunity that we have discussed, but at this time, we are not directly funding work in that area. And tier funding, somebody's going to have to help me. What are we referencing there?
So that comment came from Alex. Alex, if you'd like to unmute and perhaps clarify.
Sorry, I'm a reporter. I just thought I'd short circuit the process there. It's tier funding is the carbon tax from large emitters.
Yeah. So at this time we aren't accessing any tier funding, but Alex, as I mentioned, it is work that both the board chair and I have been following. Most recently, I was actually working within PEI, so I'm well aware of the potential of that work. Part of the advantage of working with back in Alberta, with extensive knowledge we have, there is the opportunity to develop synthetic forms of those compounds, which actually can be manufactured here in the province. And so this is an area that we are going to be exploring with our partners at Alberta Innovates, who certainly have expertise in this particular area, as well as Genome Alberta.
Great. Oh, and thank you, Carrie, for explaining the acronym. Couple of questions, Mark, around government funding, and I'm going to combine them. So one is, do we have any information about what CAP 2.0 is going to look like? And quick follow-up is, are there more funds coming from the government of Alberta annually for RDAR to invest?
So CAP 2.0, in November, the expectation that CAP 2.0 would be forthcoming at a Guelph announcement in July 2022 was announced. At this time, we have no details in terms of the amount of money that will be in CAP or the current distribution of funds within the CAP envelope. Just for general information to the membership, CAP is a series of different funds. For example, there's a value-added fund. There's a further investment fund for major funding initiatives, as well as the research fund that RDAR is administering at this time. We will be in discussions with the AFRID ministry later this year to make our case for funding.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So a very popular question with 4 upvotes here. When investing directly with or to the benefit of private industry, is there a threshold of cash or in-kind contribution that is required from that group in order for RDAR to provide funding?
Under the CAP agreement, we do look for a one-to-one match. For a number of these projects, we have looked at the greenhouse project. We were able to leverage greater than 1-to-1, which is why we were able to make that 2.3 times leverage number that I indicated earlier. And so that 1-to-1 is the funding match that we look for, as well as I indicated, we look for the T4P, transdisciplinary producer-private partnership. We want to see producers engaged in the work, and we like to see our academic partners engaged in the work. And so we get into that whole scrutiny of process and validation of work. There has to be the rationale behind science driving the industry forwards.
Okay, thank you. And one last comment. Going to paraphrase and summarize a little bit. Wanted to recognize that, and thanks for all the work that RDAR is doing, and support and appreciated support for the ARAs, although not all our ARAs self-identify as ARAs. And asking for recognition that program funding has not increased in 17 years. And though project funding is great, it's the programs that will help information lives on beyond the life. So the question is, will RDAR commit to developing key programs, especially with the loss of core capacity at Alberta Agriculture?
This time we don't have funding available for programs other than the 7 programs which were transferred to the post-secondary institutions for support. We are willing, and we are currently engaged working with a number of the academic programs who also will require some additional assistance building up their work over the next 12 to 24 months. We are working closely with the ARAs. We're supporting an initiative led by CARA to build a strong business case for the support of the 12 ARAs and the work that they're doing. And so that work is ongoing. The ARAs have come together and put a 23-point action plan together. RDAR is funding a consultant, Mr. John Knapp, to work with the ARAs in building that business case. And the first deliverable, which RDAR is funding, is a $75,000 economic benefit analysis study being conducted for the group. And that will become available later in the spring. We are open to funding projects. And as I keyed out, the climate solutions work being done with our friends up in North Peace. We are able to make long-term project commitments. The climate solution work that I indicated is a 4-year project. And that is a long-term commitment, which to many, you could say would be akin to a program of work. RDAR does look to delivering outcomes, and there have to be specific measurables. Many of you will become familiar with language being used by RDAR in terms of we are output driven. We need to see results at the farm gate. We're outcome driven, looking for results at the farm gate. We're not output driven. It's not how many papers have been put out. It's not conventional signs of research activity that we are looking to measure. And as we come to the strategic plan review later this afternoon, you will see the expectation of the province is that we have hard outcomes and hard deliverables. And so we need hard outcomes rather than soft outcomes. We're willing to work with any and all partners at developing projects which deliver outcomes to the producers at their gate.
Hey, Mark, I see we've got 2 questions, which I will combine into one because they're related, and there's a hand up. So I'll ask the question first, and then Kim McConnell will get to you right away. So question, what's been the progress on the Extension Task Force, and will there be continued long-term funding for extension projects?
That will depend on the outcomes of the Extension Task Force. RDAR's role is a networker and a catalyst in these bigger envelopes or umbrellas of extension. So the task force is led by Nicole Neubauer. We're privileged to have her agree to step in, along with 6 other members of the producer community, including the ARAs. And they are slated to produce a report for industry, the agriculture sector, to review in June this year.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. And Kim, if you'd like to unmute, please chime in. And then I think there are no further questions, so I'll pass it back to the chair.